Hi Prêt-à-Template designers. There is new jewelry section that you can find within the templates, and there are bracelets, earrings, rings, different gems and necklace templates. Together there's 80 different options. So there's so many different styles that you can find here that you can start your own jewelry line or accessories line and combine different ring templates to different stones. So there's so many combinations, and that's what I'm going to do today, using one of the ring templates and finding the stone which I want to combine with it. So let's take a look at this one. So this template is really nice. You can use it for different stones, and I'm going to look at which one will I pair it with. Let's open this one. So I will start with outlining the entire stone with the blue color because I want it to be a sapphire, and this cut is called cushion. I am going to use it with the ring. Although the template has a round, seemingly like a round setting, you can still modify that template to fit pretty much any stone you want. So that is what I'm going to do now. And now I will fill it in with color. You can use color drop tool, but I'm just going to do it manually and fill in the entire space of the stone with one single color. I'm still on that same layer as the outline. So now is the most interesting and difficult part as well, is to color the stone. I'm going to take a watercolor brush, and let's see, the light is going from the top left section and it's trapped inside the stone because the stone is transparent. So this is the source of light. And once it hits the stone, it enters the surface of the stone, and there's this glow inside the stone, this trapped light that is nice to show. It's basically going to be a lighter version of the same color, slightly more saturated. And this is going to represent that light inside the stone. It's going to be on one side of the stone because I'm going to use just a single source of light. So it kind of like goes through the stone and bounces on the separate side. So this way, if I have the light source on the left, then I will have this light inside the stone on the right. And there is a similar shadow on the other side. So I'm just making it like more softer transition. And I'm going to add some shadow. So this is the light inside the stone that I'm drawing right now, because the stone will have two different types of light. One will be on the surface of the facets, and one will be inside the stone. So this is what happens inside the gem. Now to start drawing facets, I'm going to have to outline the entire structure using a very light color. I'm not using white, I'm using the same blue but like a very light version of it. And that's where the templates are so extremely useful, that you can basically just trace all the facets and get the beautiful illustration. I'm doing it on a separate layer. This is my third layer, and I will just trace the entire structure of the cut. Okay, so now that it's done, I am going to remove completely the template. There's no need of it anymore, and I have here the structure of facets, but I'm going to add one more layer under this structure so that it always remains on top, and use a marker of a very light color. I'm switching to even lighter blue, which is almost white, and I will start adding the light to the facets. Now, the idea here is that when we were drawing the light inside the stone, because it went through the entire surface, it bounced off the right side. But with the facet, the light kind of sits on the surface of the facets. So like any object, if the light source is from the left, then the facets on the left will be also the most lit. They will receive light. And the table of the stone, which is this flat top portion, will also have like a streak of light. So I am just adding it, and simultaneously I am erasing everything that went outside of this facet, because each facet will have its own pattern of light. So I can merge it now once I'm happy with it. But the idea is that every time I draw something on a new facet, I'm adding a new layer. Why? Because I will always need to erase something outside of the facet, and the best way to have it separately from everything else that you've drawn. So these two top facets are going to be the ones that receive most light, and you can almost paint them with white color. So I painted both at the same time, erased whatever else is there. And what I will do is I will outline these specific facets with a lighter color, because the line should basically dissolve with the color of the facet itself. It belongs to this plane, so it should have the same color. And I will just be doing the same thing for all the facets basically. And you can follow this pattern pretty much for every stone, even for a diamond. Just this idea of having the light inside of the stone and outside on the facets as a separate structure, kind of pattern of light, we'll get the feeling that the stone is not flat, that it has volume and it has this light inside. So what I want to do now is add a little bit of structure to this light that is inside the stone. And what I mean by structure is that the stone has facets even at the bottom. So when you look through the stone, you will kind of see those facets. Right now I just have this beautiful light glow inside the stone, but that glow doesn't show that structure inside the stone. So I'm going to just show a couple of facets just to give a hint of that structure that is under in the bottom of the stone. And I'm going to just use a few facets. I don't need the whole pattern, but just to reflect that there is a structure. So finally I'm going to add one more layer on top and create these beautiful circle that will represent the light on top of the stone. It's not maybe very like a realistic thing, but that's done in the jewelry rendering. It's one of the techniques, and it looks very beautiful on the illustration. So I've merged all the layers, and I just want to show you that if you take another color in the spectrum, for example, I'm gonna search for a ruby color and just color drop it here. You can actually use the same drawing you had to get different stones. So now I have two different projects and I've split screen. Now I took a scissor tool, outlined it, and hold and drag it and drop on the other project, and this way I can combine these two projects together, and I can scale it with my hand in order to fit my template the way I like it, in order to represent a certain size of stone that I require. And share option is now inside the canvas, so you can save your project right away. Now I can focus on the ring. I still need to place the stones on the template, so I'm going to use a scissor tool for them separately and drag them without scaling this time, so they all remain the same. So I have to move this stone first in order to not get it overlapped, and copy it to both side views of the ring, one by one. So now I'm adding one more layer, and I will need to color the facets of the ring. I'm going to use some custom colors that I already have in my custom palette, and just color drop them on the parts of the template that are gold. So now I will duplicate this layer and drag one under the ring template, and the stones that are behind the gold I will leave under, and the stones that are on top I will leave on top. So I'm adding one more layer on top of the gold, and I will start rendering the gold. So I will need to fix the shape of this top section, which is going to become a halo, which means an array of small white diamonds around the stone. And for that I will need to make the shape to follow the shape of my stone, which is a cushion cut. It's a rectangle with this beautiful rounded corners. So I will find the center of the stone. It's going to be my symmetry line, and I will just pretty much do it just looking at it. I'm not really measuring anything, just following the direction, the angle of each facet. I will find approximately the way the trajectory of this line should be. Add one more layer and draw a line that will, I'll just switch to the curved line, yeah, and add the line that will follow this shape. Now I'll delete the previous layer. But first I will actually use my center line to guide me and use a scissor tool to mirror it to the other side. And now I will mirror all of these to the bottom. So in order for me to do it, I will also have to rotate this part. I'm going to do it by hand, like this, and match it to the outer corners of the top side. So as I felt it wasn't in the middle, I'm just going to use a scissor tool and drag it towards the center. And I will start coloring it with a round marker using my new shape. So now I have to fix the shape of the top section also on this template, following the shape of the stone. This time I'm just going to do it by eye. So the next step is to add the stones, and I will start them as just white circles using a round white marker. So I found the easy way to do it is actually to use dotted line, and then I enlarged it using a scissor tool. This single dot basically made it bigger. And once I was happy with the size, I just started cloning it using the scissor tool to have exact same size of all the stones. I think it can be done by hand as well, but I decided to go this way. So now that I have extended the top of the ring, I will have to do the certain adjustments on the side view because it has to correspond in size, like so over here and from this side as well, and just extending this part of the ring. What I'm doing next is the setting. It's a thin rim of gold that protects the stones from the side, and I'm using a lighter color because it usually is elevated part of metal and it will receive more light, while the stones will be set in on a deeper level. So I will just outline this part with a light color, and I will need to add highlights to it and shadow, and then I will need to work on the stones and on the prongs. Prongs are these little beads of gold that hold stones in place. So here I am adding the prongs. It's just going to look like a circles of metal between the stones, holding them from both sides. And now I want to work on the diamonds. When it comes to small diamonds, it's always easier to do them in the simplified way without doing all these facets like I've done on a big stone. So what I am doing is placing a darker gray circle inside my white circle. So what that represents is basically the inside of the stone. The inside of the stone is darker and it has a white outline right now because that white circle is still having an outline peeking behind. And now what I'm going to do is take a small size of white color and I will draw one more circle which is a smaller size, which will represent the table of the stone, which is this flat part of the stone on top, which gets more light. Sometimes some stones will get more light, some will get less, but I'm just using a simplified method where I will make all of them white. You can vary the amount of light by making some of them white, making some of them gray. And these white dot that I'm placing right now represents these facets that catch the most light, like you see on the blue stone. They are from the top left corner. I'm just coloring that small dot with white. And I will also create some shadow inside the stone, which will represent those facets that are dark. And this is how it's done for the smallest diamonds, the ones that we can't really see their facets, we just see the pattern of light and dark. And this small black dot that I'm placing, it's actually dark gray, it represents this dark section inside the stone. And I will also add it. So it's basically the same pattern as a big stone, but just you don't have the facets really, you just have the pattern of the light and shadow. And now I've added one layer to start rendering gold on the shank of the ring. Now that I finished the setting completely, I will just create some light on the left side and some shadow on the right side. The light on the left side will just have maybe 2 or 3 steps of light and 2 or 3 steps of shadow. I'm using again colors of my custom palette, which I have extracted from some photo references. And so the same technique is used on all the parts of the ring, on all the views. And I'm just going to do exactly the same. Use a straight line and marker to do this transparent lines of color, both light and shadow, and then erase and repeat. And each time I do it, I'm going to create a new layer, and once I'm happy with the result, after I erase everything unnecessary, I'm going to merge it and create a new layer. So I finished pretty much each part, and I've merged all the layers. Only the top setting on this side is pending, so I'm adding one more layer. And on the side view you will see stones just from the side. The very top of the stone will be peeking through. You can take a white color with a straight line and just create these little dashes. So creating a setting on this view is a little bit tricky because the stones are not round, they have a perspective. So you have to think in terms of drawing ellipses instead of circles, and they will have to follow the perspective. So I've repeated pretty much same steps that on the top view, and now I have to add the main prongs. And I also have to count the perspective, the size, and the placement of these prongs. And I'm as well cross-checking it with the top view to see exactly where they're placed, because the first time I drew it was a wrong placement. So this is the last gold part that still needs rendering, which I'm going to do just like I did all the other parts on a separate layer, swiping through with straight lines of light and shadow, and then erasing the other parts. And I will merge this layer with the rest of the ring. So I've still decided to add some highlights with white color to give more shine to the ring, just like a final touches. And I think this is pretty much it. I want to tell you that right now you can share your illustration as JPEG or a file from the canvas directly. You can take a look at the top right corner where you will find an icon to do that. And thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to this channel.